everybody Sangha, good morning, thank you. 자작하려 주고 근데 뭐 참아놨더니 다시 데리셔 예 데리다 다 쇼케리 이나자 좀 timid 되니 동당을 뒤쪽이요 말고 뒤쪽가 동반이래 그 도그니다 니만 찾는 것들이 뒤쪽으로
Dashidele, our Sangha, has joined us on live stream today. It's morning here, good morning, but actually the three times actually are timeless. There is actually ultimately no time. Ultimately, time is empty. It's just that conventionally, because of the rising and the setting sun, that people have fabricated this concept of time.
Mahakala 들들이 시반지 뒤만 니체 들들이 뒤바 사sab지를 양치 조용지 야시 되라고 제가서 대삽체체 저 당하는 그 sem남 또도 당이 들지니들이 야구 컨트롤게 제름사치 deputy or 디자는 사고성 그래 공부 강의들 대니 싶은 남절배 the children need to do young talking with you got young they need mischievity something related this ala is bunch of needs they bala j last of all the young things not the number nobody on mango rita take a 강에 에서는 된 제기치를 they don't love so they something non trouble in body 그렇게 땅디 대니 시바적에 대니 가래시 거래 되는 대식 뭐지甚至 당시들이 감성 생긴 당시에 대식 뭐 이제적 성분성 뭐나서 이제적 맞도요 말 이제적 들들 남년 재원이 내가 뭐좀 맞다 그랬더니 안게 문제 내당 찾기 인소라더니 저 시래당 만나서 차를 들들이 다른 데들이 다 이시방은 제심바 다라한테 망보다 mentak요 이 저는 대니 시바지 그 주거가 남진 거 대식도 뭐 또라 대식도 좋아하는 찹 대서도 리답데 오래 동시 또 대니 대식도 뭐 좋아하는 찹시가 대하고 오래 들이 들이다 가가소소 요바데 강아리들 들도 탑 가가래 요래 공도 상지 지차로 가가래 요래 옛날 대삼제를 축구를 즉 연바데 시나 들이 되니 시바 좀 되기지 뭐요 했지
So, Dharma friends, today I'm giving a brief introduction to Mahakala and also Ajichuku Dorma, which both are protectors. And now there are many different kinds of worldly protectors that we know of in this world. So basically there are two kinds of gods or protectors. There is the wisdom beings and then there is the worldly gods. And the worldly gods can have qualities, but also they can have some faults. And so that is due to there still being concepts in the mind. Jamgyung Kongtrul wrote, there's a book by Jamgyung Kongtrul on the generation stage practice of the deity yoga practice. And so in there's this quotation that says, if you know just this, if you know only this, then such a yogi man encountering various magical apparitions and even demonic apparitions in charnel grounds and so forth, that these will become like stepping stones to attain cities. But then there are many things that we don't know, that we don't know this one thing, which we will go into. And so you have said that there is worldly gods and there is wisdom gods. And so as long as we are on this worldly, mundane level, there are so many different divisions, and we call all these beings different. These are different gods and different demons and spirits and so on. There are so many different divisions. And often when we run into just a slight difficulty, we think that, oh, this was because of this spirit, a demon did that. But that's really a mistaken view. So now coming back to the quote, if one knows just that, so what is just that? That is the Buddha nature. And all sentient beings in the three realms of samsara possess this Buddha nature, which is the single ground, as it is said in the Samantabhadra prayer. There is only a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions. So even though there is just a single ground, temporarily, various illusory manifestations appear to us. And they appear due to our past karma and also the various momentary conditions. When all of these come together, then various things may appear to us. And so we give them different names. We call them wisdom gods and worldly gods and demons and spirits and so forth. But now, how is it for someone who knows just that, which is the true nature? When one realizes the nature of the Dharmakaya, which is the essence of Buddha nature, one realizes that this nature pervades all beings. And when one sees it, when one sees that all beings possess this nature, then actually it becomes quite simple. So that's really the most important point to understand. And until then, we make divisions and separations. So there are many different lineages and different deities that appear in different forms, different gods with different body colors and implements and ornaments and so forth. And even though there is this great variety, knowing just that means that although there is diversity, there is just a single ground or single basis, which is the expanse of the Dharmakaya.
사지 뜨거워요. 대리 사지 셔틀 때마다 사지 셔틀 타바지 릭스에서 사지 셔틀 타바리 오 되게 고송 통용된 철레데 가리 차세거든 변한테다 약학들은 아마 약학이 신지지 산지 신지지 산지는 되게 레콩 신지자 레콩 대신 망보요래 이 대사별 레가지만 망보요래 레가지만 망보요는 너는 just 되게 내가 차창 대신 이게 내가 되게 들이 약합 되게 망망당 좋아 들이 잡시 밤요 용 참치들이 멋지게 생겼다고 저는 니저가 나고 내가 제제들이 민망보리 이때도 이제 민망보리 싸움에 하더니 대니 시바지바들고 미시바들 참아 류가 있음 상화대 위시를 쪼가래요 미신을 찍어래. 이때는 남도 남바다들이 남만나서 어디니 내가 남만나서 제기 요래. 내가 내도 남만나서 차게 요래. 이 탐지 문제 내담 찾겠지. 문제는 찾기는 되더니 좀 생기게 대독자 이거 다 줘야 요 말이 다 좋은데 내가 좀 좋아요래 이 마신에 다 같이 얘기 오 다음 같이 얘기 메카지 누가 차는 호텔 제쇼도 단 제쇼들이 됐다 누가 차송데 대서 올라고요 대 강에들 저랭이도 되들 저 야만 게 레사 야바데 데이터도 쭉 빠져봐나지 센데 쭉 타봐나오래 들지들 레게데 가리에서 빠져나오래 따뜻한 모습이 쭉 홀로나 미치 참아 빠져서는 뭐 제가 잡서는 이들이 가까이 제 빠져져래 때 양절 때문에 당디 양절 살을 뒤더니 저랭이도 데라더니 이도 그땅 좀 뭐지 남자 살을 때문에 동네에 대독을 레를 하소면 내가 찐 찾기는 되니 오 같이 핑고 다 사티고 사도 거래지 오 나는 누가서 단 제제 누가 사는 제제 사대 있어야 돼 돈이 되니 시나 오 랑게 레데도 뒤져 저 때렸더니 끼나 반하다 소리 사요리 대다도 하고는 들다다 남살랑나 사이직이 예미 바라지 오 대사지에 땜바송을 생기듯이 배바티 체들이 다 라홍마한테 대다고 고고리 이제들이 대식은 뭐지 주거를 막에 바래지 롱거제들이 다 롱거들이 이 당시 와도 좋은 남만 나서 요래 쫓거제들이 무스들이 다가 단적된 로아를 또 소실 속견이더니 생기게 동무제가 대다고 걔네들이 다 똑같이들이 추정성만들 쭉 그쳐서 연구요래 그래서 tambi domandano studia quando sono quelli caro da gente tetro tocco consanto io 뭐 라마 추가 산제라 스니 오동 바데 추가 라지 추가 산제 추가 당 산제 대통령 오지와 오 동바 추가 대 산제 라마 섬대 좀 말이지 람진 사람진이 람지 롱고 뭐라고 하죠? 람지 롱고 예담 담배 추지 추 예담 담배 추 담지 롱고 그 공선도 그래 특이애들 생니 싹동이 때렸더니 이제 지금 뭐 이제 뭐 때렸더니 특이애들 조금 가도 괜찮아지 조금 그것들이 가도 당 괜찮다 대라서 뭐든지 너 고쳐서 거 공선 만들이 얼마에 지금 주거래 송요래 대다와 하고는 들 송마상지 냠선을 가면 대니 시바드 대다와 냠선인 거래 돼.
So Mahakala, he's also connected, the protector is connected to Chakra Samvara. And so, as with all deity practices, also Chakra Samvara has an aspect of enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities. And so it is said that he is an emanation of Chakra Samvara's heart, or his mind. And also, for example, the Buddha of this time and age, the Buddha Shakyamuni, possesses these qualities of enlightened body, speech, mind, activities, and qualities. And actually, ultimately, they all arise from one Buddha, from this one Buddha, all these deities and protectors and so on. So, for example, it's just like that. In a country, you have a president. Let's say the president is like the Buddha Shakyamuni, and then you have, the president has different cabinets, various offices, and there's a lot of people working in these various cabinets. And even though there are a lot of people working there, it's really all the activity of the president. And then it's the president's responsibility to ensure the communities, the people's well-being, and to sustain sustenance for them, and wealth and culture and so forth. So even though there is a lot of people working in those offices, there is one basis for that. So it's just a bit like that, this knowing just that, this single basis. And also the people themselves actually are, even though there are so many, they actually are the same. All people possess a body, speech, and mind. And then it's just because due to various thoughts and karma that they engage in, that they experience a great variety of happiness and suffering. So all of our experience of happiness and suffering is due to past karma and temporary conditions. And because sentient beings have their own karma for their happiness and for their suffering, though a president cannot be responsible for all of their experiences, cannot kind of resolve all of their issues, because it follows karma. Everyone follows their own karma too. And so if one doesn't understand that, for example, sometimes people say that if a person has lost their mind, and then they say, he's possessed by a demon, because a demon entered him and now he's lost his mind, he's crazy. But actually, there is a cause for that. It's not just a demon entering him, but the actual cause are their own karma, their own obscurations, their own negativities. It's because in the past they have already created this karma. And for example, it's just like filming like a movie. You're making a film, and the mind is like, how do you say, like the film, like the box where the film is like saved in. And so basically, it's like you're spending your whole life, you're making a movie of your life, you're filming it, and then again you're watching it, and then it appears to you. And then all kinds of things appear, things that have already previously been recorded. So that is this previous recording of the movie. This is the cause which are karmas and negativities and obscurations. And then there are also temporary conditions, and these are for example, those spirits and obstructors and obstacles and so on, which then manifest to sentient beings, and due to which they experience all kinds of experiences of happiness and suffering. So also sometimes people think that when they worship protector, for example, they feel that, if I make an offering to this god, then there will be some temporary benefit, then I get something from that. And when something bad happens, then we think that, this was because of a demon, an evil spirit caused that. So we always kind of attribute our experience onto something else. But not if you know just that, which is this single basis. That also actually those temporary conditions that manifest also manifest due to a previously accumulated karma, the cause that we have created in the past. And so somebody who understands that and practices in this way recognizes that those worldly beings and the wisdom gods are actually indivisible on the ultimate level. And the various protectors appear in order to protect the Buddha's teachings and in order to increase the happiness of sentient beings. And their basis is one and the same. It's Buddha nature. Nothing ever transcends the Dharmakaya. And then for the Sambhogakaya manifests in the form of, for example, the various Yidam deities in peaceful or wrathful form and so forth. And then there are the Nirmanakayas. And the Nirmanakayas appear actually in this world and can be seen in this world. It is said that actually the Nirmanakaya appears in the 6 realms of samsara, in their individual forms, in order to benefit sentient beings there. And so these Dharma protectors, they are an emanation, a manifestation of Nirmanakaya, appearing in this world to benefit beings and the teachings. And ultimately, all, even though we say they are Nirmanakaya, they all actually are, in essence, all the three jewels. So also how the three jewels on the inner level often are kind of grouped together is that the Sangha and the Dakini are, in essence, the Nirmanakaya. And then the Guru and the Buddha, or the Guru and the Dharmakaya, the Guru and Dharmakaya, which is Dharmakaya here speaking of the empty essence of mind. So the empty essence of mind, which is the Dharmakaya, and the Guru are in essence the Buddha jewel of the three jewels. And then the clarity, the natural clarity of the mind, the Yidam deity, the Sambhogakaya, those are in essence the Dharma jewel. So in brief, the Sambhogakaya is the Dharma jewel. And then for the Sangha jewel, that is the all-pervasive compassion, which is the Nirmanakaya. So from this clear and empty mind, the quality of this clear and empty mind is that it is a great compassion by nature. And this great compassion manifests as Nirmanakaya, as Dakini, as Sangha. So that's the essence of Sangha, the Nirmanakaya and Dakini, which is the pervasive compassion of the mind. So therefore we can see everything, all those beings are by nature the three jewels. And they all have arisen from the single ground, the basis, that is the Dharmakaya. So if one understands the protectors this way, then one is such a yogi who knows just that.
Something bang down the corner, they call Mahakala, the Saroba, they make the top something Saroba, the top of the Marine. The very thing go Saro, don't the Pache Chacha, then go Saro, don't they call the party Saro, don't much take it in trade young man. The time so the love that Saro, South of the three, loves that the Conquasio, the Tonatri or the logic the cases are all kind of decorated. Immediately, Panali, Tolatri, Matakpata, Navani, the Chicken Jordan committee, Namba Panitini, but the Nanita Tolati, Passion, Matakpatesa, Jakarta authority, they tell this in Nambani, Nambi, Vitatamji, Mahakala, Sawatap, Manamjap, down to three, Yigis Trinity, the Mahakal Kosi, Tokanity, Sarotic Tone, Sarotic Kilatri, Yigatamantri, Panapas Hajibetimbala, Nikato, the Chit Dolan, the Nika Chebo Shadow, the Lina get you Batamjil, Matake. Nimari Karate, Tomaji, the Rochi, sorry. Literally, that's it to the years of gene. The years of gene, got it to call Sarotic. Sarot on the ticket, the Yigata. Or Tanaba Sanjibet Imbala, the Tapachichimon dog, the 이 사로테 빠지들이 소빠지들랑 고볼로 요요래 아야지가 요래 이 따뜻한 성체 이들이 사로테끼리 이런 컬럼 파롤들이 빠지들랑 고볼로 내려 사로테 랩들이 이렇게 잡고들이 고볼로 아야지가 사로테 갈라고 뛰성들이 깨를 이리도 이리도 이게 대형들이 따뜻한 반란이 저쪽으로들이 뭐라고 제가 저게 돌아나 파티체부터 이게 되고 다 친구가 마음들이 다 뭐부터 다 밤새서 말해야지 이제 나로 봐 놓고서 비슷하게 연설해 다들이 이게 되들이 빨고 파발로 그래 다는 아니 로고 그래지 로고 그러더니 이 남녀들 아야도 창 로고 그래지 이 창 로라들이 다 뭐딱 밤 차가 뭐 차고들이 조다 제거래지 당연히 로랑 제거래지 이 콩남이 로랑 제거들이 이 고볼로 좋게 뭐딱 갔다 와서 아야들이 나고 갔다 와서 들이 콩이 좁아도 그래지 고소네 좁았던 애들이 이렇게 따와지 뭐다가 따와서 온들이 알아줘 하나 대파돈 내돈 얼마마데 내 고볼로 그니 뭐딱 말해 도시 코로랑 한번 그 프로포 워크 쉬어래 리 고볼로 그 추면 딱 누군 걸 한번 잡아래 이들이 공주가 자성 알아줘 자성 이들이 자성들이 야, 다 체랑 받쳐 요거지. 사제 대발 팽거리 다 체랑 줘지. 들이 아야도 땅말이. 들이 아야도 땅문들이 아야도 랑바로들이 먹이야 미래들 먹이야 매번 막이들 하저 기모들이 랑가니 체랑 랑바 사제 진족이래지. 체랑 집에 받아서 쓰인 거는 뭐 맥적마도 참 맥적 등할 때고 도지. 맥주도 떼고도 때 마침 주담생 양도들 아야들이 맘 집에 처들이 이 콩을 찌맥대 랑들이 좀 저거 랑이 콩 찌맥도 먹고 또 막동 다장 맥주도 양 먹고지 야나 맥주처럼 떼 좀디 주름들 좀 틈을지 링거리지 맥주도 자기 때 마송 떼를 고거리 절대 매 나처럼 막아서 제미들이 말이 맥주에 살아 뭐 노동도 이제 때때 못했단 말이야 이 못해서 좀 처리하라 이들이 아야들이 날이 잡돌라 간이 속초고만 속초고만 꼬리 안 오고 싸우는 애들이 낭속도들이 무슨 낭바부 개디바 탐지 전에 우와 짜답이 알아 맞고 사면을 짜요래. 이 맞고 같은데 고렉지. 남벌 고렉지 짜비 같은데. 거기서 좀 게임 말을 이걸 누가 고렉지 고렉니 고렉섬 고렉지를 누가 해서 갈아들이지. 이렇게 좀 약해요. 고렉지 짜답소. 너무 짜비만 고렉지. 니다. 너무 방송들이 따뜻 들어오자. 다 알아야들이 가래 싸움하지니 따지는 주소마. 뒤살 좋은들이 니마들 다같이 그 게디바 다같이 된 걸 만도 걸 뭐야 매바지 망도 촉감을 쏘는 것도 봐시들. 야코 땅하고 뭐야 좀 본다 사제데마 맥게데 다 추가 들으냐 저 때라서 하시. 가마들이 쪼가잡. 알아요. 들이 쪼가지 자체성 들이 뭐딱 도마라 쪼가잡 들이 뭐딱 도마라 뭐딱 탐색 판발잡 뭐딱 탐색 판발잡 들이 뭐딱 도마다 아야지와 콩이쪽 들이 콩이 쪼가잡 들이 뭐딱 도마 파운데 들이 뭐딱 도마 눈처럼 나가는 파송 들이 아야지와 파송 들이 아야지와 파를 지지스는 뭐딱 하는 파송 들이 아야지와 지지는 파송들이 들이 아야지와 그 남네 다 체랑 대야 따라서는 로고 뻗어 요래 체랑 힘을 해야지 다 야마로지 아야 이 맞으라 맞아 그러니까 이 맞게 남바 사지를 제일 좋으면이 디남 디소 炸药的，炸大什么弄不住，弄不住炸的，他得嘛的，这里哎呀的失踪，你们这个马可呢？这他哪里这变成的？是，后个你嘛人那你俩他弄不住我的这，哎呀的然后是吧？你们这不嘛这南瓜给好南瓜的，那个人那个把的地上好炸了么了？炸呀都炸大什么？这空嘛做马样的，这哎呀的失踪。这嘛在种这哎呀就马可了，这马可了的那么的哪里在做了康的各种的，嘛这个家家，嘛这个把大洋些是吧？他的你空气的基本上没基本的，这各种的家家，这嘛这个胖松，这嘛这个胖的这里各种的家家，这空做嘛个吃的家的各种的。사지 가절 저기 가절 저기 들면서 또 봐도 가절 참아로 때뭐 다다 좀 가절로 되지는 다 가절는 로는들이 다 마음 말 때들 뭐 그 제와 때라서 요와 나버 좀 참하고 송서리 때들들이 뭐또 마디 내들로 나버 따와 코테 받지는데 홍나만 줘서 뭐 따와 이거 짬절이 다다다 뭐또 마디 짬절이 참지 다空接到我接到这么这多嘛就把这空那个接那个都给因素的，是不这个嘛个？啊，他抢接嘛，他接到了品牌有嘛的，他抢个得看没把接家的都把这装上，这里他哪里不懂的，反正哪里不懂了这都把你有的，特别多吧，这都把你这里咱们这多吧，这装的是他吃嘛我有的，这他们就说这里哪怕他这个对吧？亚让也就是这里面的多嘛这样，这哪怕他这个搞了小，这些玩意他这里这都出来的，这种他路就忙不有的，这是他阿亮地方这玩意有的，这阿亮地方路就成这玩意没，哪个写的都，因为你那他们是哪个我们都没写，这都出这他们的。
So there's a story, the historical background of Mahakala, and it's also actually explained in brief in the 50 Digong empowerments, but there is a much longer, more elaborate account of that story, which comes from the Mahakala city emergence tantra, and so in brief that story goes back to the Buddha Shakyamuni and appearing as Chakkasamvara and bestowing empowerment, and then so he appeared then from his heart, from Chakkasamvara's heart, and then received this secret name of the raven-headed one. And so there's a story also how that came about, and that is so there was this, as many stories actually. So how this raven-headed story came about is that in the past, so there was the Nalanda monastery, the Nalanda temple, and so there was a time in the past where there were a lot of debates going on between the Tirthikas, the non-Buddhist philosophers, and the Buddhist philosophers, and so there was a time where the Buddhists actually were defeated in debate, and the Tirthikas, they gained victory at Nalanda University, at this monastic university. And so then, at that time, there were several Buddhist scholars, Panditas, who supplicated and prayed to Mahakala to dispel these obstacles. And so there was this statue they had of Mahakala, and so there at the center, from its heart there appeared a raven. And so what they did is they wrote a letter, writing the Buddhist teachings are running into great difficulties. What is it? Oh, sorry, it's a crow then, right? Sorry, it's a crow. It's not a raven. So then they wrote on this letter, so the Buddhist teachings are running into difficulties, and there's obstacles. There were many debates, and the Buddhists lost the debate. So they wrote this in a letter, and then it was the raven, the crow took it, picked it up, and then flew away with it. And then the crow reached Nagarjuna, and Aryadeva was also there, Nagarjuna's disciple. And then they received the letter from the crow. And so Nagarjuna asked Aryadeva to see what that letter had to say. And so then Aryadeva read that letter, and he said that what it says there is that Nalanda is running into great difficulties. And we are about to lose Nalanda to the Tirthikas. There are many obstacles to the Buddha Dharma. And if you don't come, then the Tirthikas will be victorious and we will be defeated. So that's what the letter says. And so at that time, Nagarjuna was at the western gate of Nalanda University. And so he was there together with Aryadeva. And then Nagarjuna said that we have to go. And actually saying you have to go. So he sent Aryadeva to go to defeat them in debate. But then Nagarjuna said, first we have to like train, we have to make a little test to see how that will go. So Nagarjuna pretended to be, he took on the role of the Tirthika, and then Nagarjuna took on the role of the Buddhist. And so then they engaged in this kind of like testing debate. And so Nagarjuna was so convincing that Aryadeva actually began to believe that he's actually a Tirthika. And so he lost all his faith, his devotion, and he got actually really angry, and he thought that he really became a Tirthika. But Nagarjuna said that now you should go there, and so they had an argument, and he said you should still go there, even though your turning away of faith is a little obstacle, but actually it will be kind of also a driving force to benefit the Buddha's teachings. So with that, he sent him off to go to debate at Nalanda University. And on the way, so as he was going there, he met an old woman who didn't have eyes. She was very, very old. And so then they encountered each other, and she said that, well, you are a follower of Buddhism. That's why you have to practice the paramita of generosity. That's why you have to give me one of your eyes. And because if you don't, then you are really breaking your Buddhist samaya, your Buddhist vow of generosity, of practicing generosity. And so then that's what Aryadeva did. He took out one of his eyes and gave it to her. But what she did is that she like threw it on the ground and then just squished it. And so then she said that now also as a Buddhist practitioner, now you have to practice discipline, and so therefore now you give me your other eye. And so that's when he realized that she's not really an old lady, but she's an emanation, kind of a manifestation of one of those Tirthikas. And so anyways, then that made him move on with even greater force to go to Nalanda. And at that time, it was difficult to enter the monastery for the Buddhists, so he had to kind of sneak in there secretly. But then they always made a head count. So the Buddhists, of course, they had shaved heads. And then the Tirthikas, they had a hair on their head. So every day they would count how many shaved heads there are, how many heads with hairs there are. And so then because he entered and he's a Buddhist, they counted one extra shaved head. So then they found out that he must have snuck in, and they asked him, how did you get here and who are you and so on. And so then that's when the debating started. So then Aryadeva then challenged them in debate, And he worked himself up through all those scholars until at the end he started to debate with the leader of the Tirthikas. And so it then seemed that this leader of the Tirthikas was being defeated by Aryadeva. And so then he kind of showed this Tirthika showed his last miracle, and he flew up into the sky. So then after he flew up into the sky, then also Aryadeva flew up into the sky. And then the Tirthika flew up even higher. But then Aryadeva said that I wouldn't go up much more, because if you go up, you're going to die. And so then the Tirthika in the sky considered that, well, I wonder if that's true or not, because the Buddhists, they don't really lie. And so then kind of his there was this kind of I guess a violent kind of wind there, and that kind of shaved off his hair, and then he came back to the ground. And so then coming back to the ground, he was captured, and so then again they engaged in many different debates with each other, and So then basically the Buddhists took over the control over Nalanda University again, and he was more like a prisoner. Tirthika was a prisoner at that time. And so then he was made to kind of recite the Buddha's, the Gangyo, the words of the Buddha, the various scriptures. And so then everybody was watching him reciting that. And so then finally they had more debates about the different tenet systems and so on. And finally, in the end, in any case, the Tirthika leader actually had a change of mind, and he converted. He became a Buddhist, and he developed faith in Buddhism. And so then he also felt a great regret, and he said that for all I've done, I will now cut off my tongue. And Aryadeva said, don't cut off your tongue. That's of really no benefit. What you should do instead, kind of to make up for all those things, is that you should compose. Instead, you should compose a praise instead of blame and humiliation. And so there is two major praises that were composed. There's also a book on that. It's quite a long praise that was composed by this previous Tirthika. But anyways, this was the time then when the Buddha's teachings again flourished, and this Tirthika obviously then entered the gates of Buddhism. And so this is how the protectors have enacted the enlightened activities. And so the story is much more elaborate, and there's many more stories on that. And so since he is a protector, Achi is also related to him. And there's also many stories about that. But in any case, this is kind of how the enlightened activities were engaged in. Did I get all of that? Oh, ngadik songe. I hope so. All right. Hope so too.
보주 나디 게 되니다 뭐보고 로주 망보 요래데 옛날에 자주 나디 양 제가 요래 다다 자나게 문제 자나를 치지 뭐 타생들이 자가를 패들이 고 치죠 가네 포커스 앞서를 알게 되지 요래 접착지 주 타생나무 도바지 비도가 요래 접착지 타생 그 그거 빙 통통아 장지 빙 통통네 네 무슨 가면 네 토를 코도라 좀 제도 다도 되는 거 몰래 네가 저 말해야지 당색끼리 저거 저 말해야지 좀 아재를 뭐 지금 알아서 뭐더니 거 몰래 네가 로주대 때를 설차서 되는 데가 치고 요래서 은행 거 몰래 네가 남타 로지당 디티지 로지당 탄생 로지당 이제 파전 저하치 보여래. 그런데 저는 거 볼래 니에도 남바가 시나 보지 나지 시나 탄생하면 뛰지 양거 볼래 니에서 거 볼래 니는 거 빨고 니그 파라고. 이 거 늦죠래. 거 늦죠요래. 디너니 전에 다 사자고 공공 쪼지 요래. 까마까지 그 변하지 쪼지 요래. 정도 많은 게 살지봐 쪼지 요래. 게로고 사도고 쪼지 요래. 이런 거 보는 감을 보여래. 이런 돈 어찌 빠래. 이게 왜다 거 다 하잖아 하고 다시 뭐 누가까지 그 예담 것을 양 죽고 요래. 뭐 좋다 또 되는다 누가까지 뭐 쏘는 지가 요래. 뭐 사게 봐대. 뭐 죽대 때라더니 덕지 자세 뭐 참나게 봐 요래. 이나한테 이 뭐 드바보 강사 빨가로 소리지 공개더니 거기 용내에다 보려요래. 라사 좋은 거지. 이 공개사 공개 뭐 샤르더니 뭐 동박 나가 강지 뭐 열마들이 마하카라 샤르서 telezi 거기 때지 송잡아. 일단 당고서 소칸나 다자카라 야요래. 호공수 솔로지. 뭐 무슨 샤르데 송말이 디나는 저 평가래 평에도 다 디는 송요래 디 다자카리 요래 세나데 뭐 봐봐 담저 테스로라 뭐 무슨 샤르데 빨가로 샤르데 송말이 하자자 아치보리 대도는 되다 무슨 상태를 뭐 내가 가르치는 말로 가르치도 따따 요래 되다가서 또 담고데 뭐 사자치 뭐냐면 이제 마담 제인나들이 되다 양 탑을 남는 집에 뜨는 이제 수많은 제발 좋게 동남거 대바들이 사자치 몰라 도제 타고 요래 땅오대 타고 요래 이제와 사람 망보라 다른 잡이도 마슈니 정대 산이 상마지가 받다 보자 그 요래 그 거기 담책들이 담책에서 소마탐들 담책 요래 담책들이 소속해 되는 그냥 타과리들이 심지기 이동 산속샘을 보지 다동 조금만 이거 산속샘 양미시나 냠니세 봐봐 대 탐지를 조고 제거래 맞다로 같이 그래 저달라고 하듯이 오지기는 정거 요래 다다도 답대다 보주나한테 자주나한테는 제가 알았지 자주는 배 잡지 버려 디 정대 때문에 뭐 때문에 다사요 뭐 다티베 내 전제 아침 뭐 요래지
to listen carefully, okay?
양사 고글로 좀
so then there so there are also many other stories about Mahakala in the Tibetan tradition, but also there are many in the Chinese tradition. For example, in the past in China, there was a master called it Dongxing, and he traveled to India, and his attendant was this monkey god, right? There's also this movie about this kind of a monkey protector god, which was his attendant, and this monkey was actually an emanation of Mahakala, and this Chinese master Dongxing, he was an emanation of Chen Rizik. Actually, this was told to me by other Rinpoche, who said that this is how the history of Mahakala. In the history of Mahakala, there are a lot of connections between the Tibetan and the Chinese history. So, for example, in this story of Dongxing and the monkey attendant, actually, then also in the Tibetan tradition, actually, they said that then this master Dongxing himself was an emanation of the protector of the monkey protector. And so in any case, there's many different forms of Mahakala in the Tibetan tradition. It is said there is 70 forms of Mahakala. Which one was the Sakya one? Sakya Kare? Which one? Huh? Oh yeah. So the Sakya emanation of the Mahakala is the like pavilion kind of headed Mahakala. And then in the Kagyu tradition, there's the club. So it's the Karma Kagyu specifically. Sashipa. Balong yang yoro. Sadupara. Sashiba. Then so Sumra. So that was the Sakya. And then in the Karma Kagyu, then the main Mahakala is the club holding one. And then the Digung Kagyu and the Dukpa Kagyu and the Barom Kagyu, those three mainly practice the four-armed Mahakala. And then in the Gelugpa tradition, mainly the six-armed Mahakala. So there's many different forms of Mahakala, but they all have a single essence. They all have the same nature, the same Mahakala in essence. And then also in the Dukpa Kagyu lineage, then the Mahakala that is also actually not just practiced as a protector, but also as a Yidam deity. What's going on? And so then there was also the story about a Mahasiddha called Bal Galo in Tibet in a place called Rotsachang. And so he saw the face of Mahakala directly in the sky. So when he made offerings and so on, then it seemed to him that the entire sky is filled with the Mahakala. So I guess something is showing which one. So there's this image we have up here at the door, at the entrance of the door. So this form of Mahakala is the one that appeared filling up the entire sky. And actually this is the Mahakala that we are supplicating in our Solka practice, the protector offering that we make that begins with, "Ho, please consider me, ho, please consider me." So that is the Mahakala on our door here. And, sorry. Also therefore when you read this prayer, you should remember that this is the one that appeared in the sky and it's very precious. Also on the internet, we have a recording of this particular Mahakala forms practice, kind of supplication. And you can also look at that and then practice it in whatever you want to accomplish. And especially also if you are somebody who is actually practicing on the ultimate level, it's also very helpful for those who practice to accomplish Mahamudra, because also in the Mahakala supplication, there's one line that says, "Please be my escort, my companion, my samadhi companion that leads me to the way, to the path of liberation." So therefore, the practice of Mahakala, the supplication to Mahakala also actually is very supportive in us realizing the nature of Mahamudra, the nature of the mind. And not just in this life, but in all future lifetimes. Because that is the deity's samaya. So all the deities have a samaya to protect the teachings and the practitioners. And that it is their samaya because to begin with, they took this oath with a motivation of great bodhicitta for all sentient beings. They took a pledge that whoever practices with a sincere motivation, they will come to protect them, to support them. And so that is especially if our motivation as the practitioners is one of bodhicitta, and of course not just a selfish motivation. So if we practice with a sincere, virtuous motivation, then it is the protector's samaya to come and assist us in our aspirations. And so then often when we practice the deity, then it is a quality of the deity Samaya that our wishes are accomplished. So in any case, there are many stories about that, but the most well-known story is a story about the Monkey King. And this really also shows the connection between the Chinese and the Tibetan traditions. There's actually a really nice kind of a TV show about that too.
Mahakala tamang ochipa chadere so tamab meyena nidino tini o mi ngani kakari tel khalate tekro tokuyo marade kutotar yishikki somje chade yore mangde yishibang sejki ma chortongo yore mato yishikki yemen siba chade yore nangni gobo jekcholo saman chokuyo samteta 소리 체인거 말에 그때야 다다 소리 다다때 다작하는 줄 땅에 농양에 땅에 소리 탐치네 디 소리 자체 버리 무슨 저들이 로마 탐치를 놓고요래 그렇게 뭐요래 뒤집도 탐 따라하는 게 좋다카리 통나때 저거리 들이 가시 탐 마탐나 들이 가지 일을 좀 봤던지죠 대 체제 가지 일을 좀 봤던지죠 대봉도 돌아서 봐야 소마지 리어 지남대다가 상도만을 잡아줘지 there's some don't there's up to the impige so the some such mojela there's a to go
and then regarding the sadhana, the practice of Mahakala, there are many different sadhanas in the various different lineages, and whatever lineage you follow, you can use the sadhana that you just do in that particular lineage. So anyone is fine. There's not a specific one that you must practice because, as we said, ultimately all the Mahakalas are of a single essence. It is just that for ordinary people who perceive things in a dualistic way, they make separations between me and him and them and so on. And then they think that if I make this food offering to them in particular, then they will get it and so on. But in reality, they all are actually one. So actually also the wisdom gods and the worldly gods also actually are indivisible. Actually, on the inner level, often they are wisdom deities, wisdom gods, who appear as worldly gods outwardly. So, but actually, the worldly and the wisdom aspects really ultimately are inseparable. So, that being the case, you should not fall into some kind of biased views, thinking it's just this one or that one. So you can supplicate to any form of Mahakala. And so now on the live stream also, I'm going to offer this supplication and the transmission, which is a praise that is extremely precious. And also the disciples, that's a praise that many disciples practice really on an ongoing basis because it's very important. But again, you can really practice any practice of Mahakala, any sadhana that you have. And if you don't have one, then so there are those 4 lines, which in Tibetan are 4 lines. So it's basically this one verse that's also in the supplication. Maybe you can find it later properly, but basically in that verse it says, by merely thinking, whoever merely thinks of him, he will bestow upon them all the cities that they desire. He's like a wish-fulfilling jewel. You wish-fulfilling jewel, therefore bestow all desired wishes. So it goes something like this supplication. But mainly, when you make such a supplication to Mahakala, what's most important is the motivation of altruism, of compassion. If you have an altruistic motivation, then the intentions that you set forth toward the deity will be accomplished.
Pe la so ba to di kum do sha sa Rama Rama song re kum do sha sa song she de ni gong she nga de chu tu ji cho tang thomong ngudok thoba yang yu de ni le yu de ni yu gan dai go yu gan ni song Lami concho temba la Gorang ni ba dokpanze Gorang ni ba dokpanze Toba chogo temba la Zing tang, zhong tang Songwa sem Ngabja tuji nyingma la Songwa jikbu dribar sa Songbe Dengsang ngabja tuji tanu Dundere Barchi serchen ngudab Nirwa Gobo sochang driba Shenda sabde Namjo lami yu Kunye nyingbo Yinbe Deyi Wangdang jinang tona Chidong de lutang Tamatar Ngor song xiang Gotor Gotor so se la Zha xi xiang Nuba se ba Matang mama Matang mami Tamji chaji ba so Jiktin chikpa tachi ba Tar Nawa xi Zhiba tang mada ba Chewe Chewe salam je parche Chewe salam je parche tamji sani Dojin changchi bu gongpang Jiwar si ba Triji Dun song iti pina da Musi jodolwa yang tapal langnan chipe Tingi di jesu matang chepan su je Dili jedar sanchok ma top je parde Lunga yisam logo lamda mendo xing Tapa sanchok je soto lo zhuwar de su Dili wangji gonna yang dili tabu chidong rin chale dili Dili chidong zhiga dili tabu jawa sanji rin chale ga zhiba yinbe Dili da hadak kar chenpo re Yadamda chidong ye me pare Dili kolo de choga chale ga zhiba re Zang dili so ataনো dili tata penyong de tabu re
Mikpa nga logo. Mikpa logo.
De lo ya kodo. De sama lo.
So now I'm looking at the 50 one of the 50 Jigong empowerments, from the empowerment texts of the Mahakala, which is a very brief historical background. So there it says, so for the visualization, glorious, I'm going to just read the whole thing. So the deity's essence is that glorious Jagasamvara appears, teaches, and protects beings in whichever way necessary. And then in the Mahakala Tantra it says, in order to subdue those with evil thoughts, the stages of accomplishment of the wrathful Mahakala should be well explained to others. Glorious Mahakala has one face, in this particular text now, has one face, 3 eyes, and 2 arms. His color is black, and his reddish black hair streams upwards. In his right hand, he brandishes a keen butcher's knife, resembling Yama's tongue, and in his left hand, he holds a skull cup filled with blood. By meditating on him, reciting his mantra, offering and praising him, supreme and ordinary siddhis will be attained. In his Tantra, it is written, he turns back evil aggressors who stand against the teachings of the unsurpassable 3 jewels. He upholds, guards, and protects the teachings of supreme accomplishment. In the last 500 years of the degenerate age, one should engage in this practice secretly in solitude. Nowadays, at the end of the 500-year era, he dispels obstacles and grants swift accomplishments. Thus, the practice of Mahakala, the single chief figure of the mandala, is extremely profound and the heart essence of all mother tantras of the highest yoga tantra. By receiving this Mahakala empowerment, it is said that this Dharma protector will stay as close to you as your own shadow. Oh, sorry. Sorry. And then also after that, then in the in the Mahakala text, in the supplication prayer, so in this blue book, there's this line, basically, that's we mentioned before now, that please be my samadhi companion that guides me along the true, authentic path, and until I attain enlightenment, may I never go astray with body, speech, and mind, and may my mind turn toward the path of liberation. So that's is also in this blue supplication, the Solka practice, and also normally when we confer an empowerment, actually before conferring an empowerment, we also first supplicate, make offerings to the Dharma protectors. So first we invoke their enlightened activities, and then we confer empowerment. And so that's also a very significant point, because it shows that the Yidam deity and the Dharma protector are actually indivisible. And so mainly now Mahakala is an emanation of Chakasamvara performing his enlightened activities. So, so this supplication, by the way, which I just mentioned, is on page 20 in the blue Mahakala book. So then this supplication that we are speaking about is called the secret supplication, which starts on page 12. So yeah, that's the beginning of that prayer on page 12 in the blue Sorka book. And has been also translated into English, and also it's available online. It's extremely precious. I'm going to give a transmission of this and read that to you. And also there are like 8 verses of supplication to Mahakala, which were actually spoken by the Buddha himself. But then they are actually all in the form of a Sanskrit mantra. So they are elsewhere. So they are in the form of Sanskrit mantra. And since I don't know Sanskrit, I don't know their meaning, although those syllables have great blessings. But in any case, this one too, this supplication in the form of a mantra, and also this one here is a supplication to the Mahakala as he appeared in this vision, this pure vision to the Master Gallo that we just mentioned before, where he appeared in space to him. And so then, when you are making offerings to Mahakala or to a protector, it is okay if you're not able to arrange all the various offering substances that are kind of prescribed in the text, or if you're not able to create all these dharmas. Actually, what you can offer is anything that you yourself are eating. And you can arrange these offerings in like a begging bowl, like this one here, the Buddha's begging bowl. You can put those offerings in that bowl and then think that they become supreme wisdom nectar that is being offered to the protectors. So this actually is enough for an offering. If you just whatever you eat, you put that in there before you, of course, the first part, and then you offer it. And then later on, when you exchange the offerings, you can give that offering food inside the bowl to the animals outside out of great compassion for them. And so it's okay if you're not able to make a dharma and various offerings. So you can just use this bowl, and then you perform the supplication. And also, it is fine if it's not this specific supplication. It can be a supplication from really any lineage. It doesn't make a difference. So also now I'm giving you the transmission, and regarding the transmission, now once you have received a transmission, it's actually also fine for anyone to pass on the transmission to others. So you can do that. And also, a transmission can be passed on, for example, over the internet. So that's also fine, because what's most important is your devotion. So now I'm going to read the transmission, and this is actually what I had received from Ade Rinpoche about Mahakala, and it's only this together with the story that I shared. And at that time I was really like a child, actually. I was very young, and I didn't really know, I didn't really understand how precious that really is. But really, now when I think about the meaning of those words, it's really extremely, incredibly precious. So I'm going to read the reading transmission for that. And then later on, you can also practice the Sorka offering practice to Mahakala. It can be this one, or it can be any other from any different, any lineage or any sadhana. That's fine. So what's important to understand is that through a virtuous motivation, whatever activity, if you have any activity, that you need to be accomplished, then it is really through just reading this supplication and making an offering to Mahakala that it will be accomplished. So only just this practice alone will be sufficient. And so now you also have it on the internet, on the live stream.
Tao Lama Ripa Sajong Tripa Deva Simbu Lamje Pacheta Digi Jipale Javan Tralian Zoich Yang Tapa Lamlan Tripa Tangi Di Josim Mada Sepan Zoich Deta Sajong Masabja Parta Ringa Yesu Lopalam Zemeroj Tapa Sajo Joso Rowan Deta Sa Jakita Yang Matiba Sotam Jele Jazi Takita Dele Potot Charging Bar Church Lati Maso Wanda Dajan Dita Neka Tajet Chaleja Savala So Chetar Tabajan Bar Church Roa Yongja Patango Dajan Chodan Tamonga Guru Tobam De Lada Tower Chalenzo Lopar Tower Dogal Lasoba Matimbo Sotajele Jasi Takita Delen Posan Charging Bar Church Zaya, Zaya, Sede, Pala, Pala. Oh, Tita, Chidolamba, Kamanish, Misoja, Land.
Now, Dharma friends, please take a break for 20 minutes.
Tita, so called Kajakara Yori, Dutta Mepana, under Mahakala Sokatana. So my mambo didn't do or something in something. Chapter Sajakala Yabi.
Also, this sadhana, the Solka offering practice to the protectors is available online. And actually, it's not only includes Mahakala, but actually many protectors are included within this Solka practice. So if you don't have a different text, you can receive that. You can get that from the internet. And actually, it includes all the protectors of all the lineages of the Sakya, Gelugpa, Kagyu, and the Nyingma lineages. So now I've made it available for you online.
So can they about getting the church about it? The introduction.
So then the more elaborate Solka practice offering to the protectors is like a Solka practice composed by the Drikung Dharmakirti or Drikung Chudak.
Thank you, I was Shanghai.